Let's end our economic review like this. The latest data from the Central Bank of Kenya, CBK, on the banking sector supervision report indicates that the sector's 14 microfinance banks recorded, wait for it, a 561% growth in losses. From 339 million in 2019 to 2.2 billion as of December 2020. Now, this translated to the worst year in business for the Kenyan lenders as COVID-19 worsened the loss margins for the industry, whose misfortunes were further compounded by competition from savings and credit cooperative societies, SACCOs, and digital lenders. Now, the report further shows that despite an operating environment made tough by competition from the commercial banks, SACCOs, and digital lenders' applications, microfinance banks managed to improve their customer deposits, which rose by 12% in 2020. Lending by microfinance banks fell by 24% in 2020 compared to a growth of 2.4% in 2019 as they sought to maintain liquidity and withheld loans from high-risk borrowers. Now, the report indicates that the lenders' core capital weighted assets declined by a steep, wait for it, 34%. Bigger question is, what impact did this have on the quality of returns on the assets and shareholder funds? Among other questions, let's look at that data this morning. And indeed, we've looked at that and we've seen what stacks out there is gross NPLs on the rise as well. You can actually see them from 2017 to 2020 on the rise as well. In terms of profitability trend, it is on the negative as well. Let's cross over to the next one as well. In terms of annual performance indicators change 2019 versus 2020. Now, that's why it stands, well, 12.3% in terms of growth in deposits, but then when it came to gross NPLs, jumped to 32%, total assets on the negative 1.9%, net advances, negative 5.3%, and then borrowing, which would give them business, went down to negative 24.1%. Oof. So let's expound on yes, maybe, just before we went on a break.
Yes.
Raphael, can we expound on that then?
Yes, when I said maybe, first of all, we need to look at the constituency, which is the target for microfinance.
Yes.
And I think, as you have just said on the report, we are really trying to look at low-income earners, people with relatively not very stable incomes.
Yes.
And I think they were among the most people who were hit seriously with by COVID, for example, and closure. You know, most small businesses, those people maybe who even make 500, maybe is their savings. That is what they take to the bank. That is maybe where they used to borrow. So that sector, I think it was prone to be hit more seriously than maybe even the banking sector.
Yes.
In terms of deposits, in terms of defaults and so forth.
So you talk to me about how the ability for the MFBs to raise capital is sort of different from how banks would do it, Raphael.
Yeah.
The economies of microfinance banks, is that where they get it wrong in the country?
Yeah, probably, because if you look at most of maybe some certain countries, microfinance institutions, you know, they are really focused to really help the low-income earners.
Yes.
And to be able to raise capital. This could even be women groups, youth groups, or maybe even individuals, or maybe small-scale traders or business people. And you realize that there's that element of unsustainability, that there will be high default rates. You don't really expect to earn a lot of really interest or maybe return on lending from these people. And most of the microfinances in certain other countries, they are normally funded either by the government. It's like a fund you put so that they cannot really rely fully on the money they make to be really what can run them. Or maybe probably they are run by non-governmental organizations.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Robert, have you word on that? When you look at those numbers, and when we're talking about profitability, has been on the negative since 2017, but then 2020 compounded that loss as well. I mean, they're saying competition from commercial banks and digital lenders in the country and deposit-taking cooperatives in the country as well. Are we talking about an industry that needs to reform and readjust or reshape Is that what it is for them, Robert?
Unfortunately, yes, because now for the microfinance institutes looking for clients also, it's slim pickings in the current environment. We have banks, we have stars actually, which are both a big threat, because when you look at the main clients that these people service, these are maybe people who are not very much in the financial inclusion and also low income individuals. Sometimes they end up opting also for circles. And then when they want lending, now we have these instant lending platforms. They're the current victims of the current environment also in the industry. So it will be quite a challenge for them to survive in this industry. However, we still have a few who posted profits, I think about 3. So there's still a glimmer of hope, but it's in a very difficult operating environment, you know.
Pretty much. Stella, that environment, especially in 2020, I mean, if you go back 10 years ago, the microfinance lenders in the country, I mean, you can hear by that, they were well anchored within the small businesses sector within the country. What is taking them away from that, Stella?
Okay, so Simba, very difficult year.
Yes.
Having the COVID-19 pandemic come up, businesses closed, people lost jobs, income, disposable income went down. So the microfinance sector, being a sector that lends to the SMEs, to people with low income, as Robert has said. So much of these people lost their income and lost their jobs. So basically, this led to the increase in the non-performing loans. Then looking at that and looking at the fact that these people and gets the money back or profits from such, we can see the point of microfinancing sector is going down.
Yes.
So as Robert has said again, there is competition from the banking sector, from the online, the digital lending apps. So this one has caused a very stiff competition to the sector, and we can see there's a reason. We can see the reason the microfinancing sector is going down.
Yes.
And as Robert has said again, there is hope. There's still hope for recovering as the economy is recovering on its own, globally and locally.
That's it, Raphael. Then let's end this conversation like this. I mean, we've seen exactly what happens to different industries and sectors that majority of the players find themselves on the losing end. Yeah. We have to say it. When it comes to profitability of the MVBs in this specific industry, it has not been so good. I mean, they have been struggling for quite some time now. Are we likely to see a readjustment? And here I'm talking about some acquisitions and mergers that are forthcoming should this trend continue in 2021. Because if you look at their counterparts, the banking sector, the commercial banks in the country, they've rebounded heavily in 2021. But these ones haven't rebounded. Is that what we're likely to see in the short term should this trend then continue? Because then I'm sitting here and I'm thinking capital adequacy is going to be a big challenge, looking at that jump to 32% for non-performing loans.
So I think maybe just even to add on to some of the factors that have also been leading to the challenges on the microfinance over and above what we have already discussed.
Yes.
I was to believe also there was also quite some kind of rapid growth,
yes.
Maybe by up to 2015. And you'll hear everybody just around the corner say, oh, I'm trying to start a microfinance, you see. Maybe initially to look like a lucrative business, but along the way, maybe probably also in terms of so many small organizations really coming in, probably could also have become a problem.
Yes.
But moving forward, yes, I believe that for every sector, when challenges and economic setbacks come in, we may have to look back and try to reorganize ourselves and try to look for maybe probably means of survival. Maybe mergers or maybe collaboration could be maybe one way on which maybe probably they will survive. Definitely there will be a few of them who will still not survive.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's I think it's normal in the course of business, in the course of recovery, in the course of economic reorganization.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Robert, You just have 30 seconds for this. What sort of readjustments are we likely to see? Should that trend continue in 2021? Because the biggest competitors are rebounding. Them, they have not.
Yes, it's possible, Simba. So look at also the banking sector has been fighting also for a piece of that SME cake.
Yes.
So yes, so it's I think going forward that's actually the best option for the microfinance institutions. So we're just going to look forward to see how that space is going to develop in the coming future, because also we've seen also mergers in the industry, especially in the bank sector, has also raised funds just to lend to these SMEs. More than 100 billion has been raised by just for honor lending to SMEs. So it's very operate in this industry with the big banks also now competing for the same customers. So for them, the best option is maybe to merge, and also further acquisitions from bigger banks will be.
Yes, we seem to have lost Robert at that end, but I think indeed we got him quite clearly towards the end. Stella, if you can get me, can you give me just a 30-second outlook of what you expect for this industry to look like in 2021, if indeed that data continues to be exactly what they're running on?
Okay, so as I said earlier, the economy is really improving. We are rebounding from the adverse effects of COVID-19.
Yes.
So in 2020. So if the trend was to continue, we expect to see more recovery in the microfinancing sector. So economy rebounds and these sectors continue merging, and other bigger fish continue acquisitions of these smaller, the capital base will increase, and definitely or consequently this will lead to the recovery of this sector, and it will go back gradually to the pre-pandemic levels.
Pretty much ending it on a positive note at this time. I'd like to say thank you very much, Raphael, for taking your time to come to Metropole TV this morning.
Welcome.
Yes, I can't wait for your reaction on the fuel prices in the country. The mood?
Yeah, like I said earlier, of course, the mood is not good.
Yes.
But again, we have tried to highlight some of the core factors. Maybe the government has to step aside in terms of the subsidies. We also have to look at what is happening in the global market. Yeah, but I believe we'll be able to move forward.
Pretty much. Thank you very much for coming by. Stella, thank you very much. And Robert, thank you very much. That is exactly that's exactly.
Thanks also, Simba.
Anytime, man. That's exactly what we have for you this morning. My name is Simba. Elijah Charles Kege. Take them back to the time they actually just tried to put perspective to the fuel price as you're waking up to this morning at Metropole TV KE across all your social media platforms on YouTube, Metropole TV Kenya. Once you get there, you can subscribe and leave a comment. We would appreciate it, and like our content as well. Good morning.